Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio. You're here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. I hope you've had an absolutely awesome week as we have here in Australia. Well, I have, particularly here on the Gold Coast. We've had a lovely little low off the coast here. For those of you that aren't familiar with what a low means, it's sort of almost like a mini hurricane or typhoon. We really didn't have too much devastation, a little bit of choppiness, and the beaches got washed away a bit and things like that, but we didn't have any loss of life. So we desperately needed the rain here. So everybody's feeling sort of rather refreshed and invigorated to start the new week. So in light of all that, we're going to kick the show off with our Simply Tarot card of the week, as we always do. And this week it's the card of the Seven of Cups. Now, the Seven of Cups is all that glitters is not gold. Now, sometimes in our lives, I think we look at things and we're looking for the golden rainbow. We're looking for that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And sometimes things aren't always as glittery or as are promised to us. So if you can look beyond the clouds, there will be opportunities, there will be money improvement. So I think it's a time when we really need to sort of resonate with ourselves and ask ourselves what is really, really important to us over the next 7 days. You know, are we sort of focusing far too much on money and not focusing on some of the more simplistic or the better things in life, the things that are important to us and things that we need to focus on for the future? So having said that, I'm really excited this week to talk about we've been working our way around the zodiac, and we've been looking at famous singers throughout the zodiac, and we're up to the final sign of Pisces. And this week we're going to be talking about the one and only, the man in black, Mr. Johnny Cash. Now, for those of you that are young enough to remember him and old enough like me to remember him and remember some of the songs that he brought out when I was a very young girl, and I used to think this man's got a really unusual sort of gravelly sort of voice. And I used to think, why would he write a song about a boy named Sue? It took me many, many years before I understood the concept about that and what the story was, and that he was telling that, you know, the father knew he wasn't going to be around. So he gave this young man a girl's name so that he'd either have to toughen up and bloody fight his way through life, or he'd, you know, keel over in the corner and never to be seen or heard of again. And that was basically the gist of the story. But when I got a lot older and started to research and understand a little bit more about music and people and what motivates people to write songs, I almost wondered whether or not that was a true story coming from Johnny Cash's experience himself as a young man growing up, because he didn't have the easiest of lives. Even from a young child, he didn't have an easy life. There was always a lot of movement and turmoil and lack of money and things like that in his life. And as he progressed through lives, he sort of, you know, was the real larrikin in some ways, or somebody that dared to sort of buck the system a little bit. He ended up in jail. He was very proud of that fact and spoke about it often at his concerts, and he did many concerts in jail to motivate and give people, the inmates inside, something to look forward to and something to hope and hang on to, and sort of show them that, you know, you can turn your life around after a setback or an obstacle or two in your life. He also battled the demon drink. He tried to find love. He found love a couple of times and sort of, I suppose, in a sense, self-destructed it too in his own way. But he also continued to write many, many, many beautiful songs that were really probably ahead of their time. They were ballads and stories and real-life experiences and things that people could relate to. And I think that's the legacy that Johnny Cash has left behind. It's not just he wasn't the most handsome or, you know, good-looking pin-up boy of his time, but he was a real person, somebody that a lot of us could relate to and a lot of us could sort of identify with, this man that had demons and struggles and everyday life like the rest of us mere mortals. And I think that's why he became so popular, even with women. You know, he wasn't certainly, you know, sexy like Elvis was, that you sort of, you swooned and drooled over wanting to meet this man. Johnny Cash was somebody like, could have been your brother, your husband, your father, and somebody that you could sort of relate to. And I was pleased to see many years later that they did do a story on his life called Walk the Line. And, you know, Johnny Cash, you know, as a singer, a songwriter, too many awards to begin to even acknowledge the amount of awards that he won. And it was just unfortunate when his time came to leave this planet that he left in rather unusual circumstances, where one of his animals on his nature reserve that he had actually ripped his stomach open, and he died of complications from that. So we'll always look at Johnny Cash, I think, in a very positive, dynamic sort of down to earth, rough and tumble sort of way, as you know, a cross between a country singer, a pop singer, a storyteller, a man that really motivated and left an impression on most of us. So we do salute Johnny Cash, and he is our Pisces male singer that I've chosen. So I hope you sort of tune in later and sort of go and Google and YouTube and look at listening to some of Johnny Cash's music, and in particular, look at that song called A Boy Named Sue. I think there's a lot in there for everybody can take from that. So moving right along, this week we're going to be talking about Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is nearing to the end of its 12-month transit in Scorpio. And it's been a very tumultuous sort of time for most signs, as everybody's been trying to put their affairs in order this year. People have been trying to expand their life out, try and get underneath and delve inside themselves to find out what it is that makes them tick. How can they improve their life? How can they improve their finances? Can they improve relations within the family? Can they find better ways to get on with their work colleagues, their friends, and things like this? And for some people, it's been a real flyaway time where things have just sort of manifested 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, and it's been really explosive and really exciting. For other people, it's been a real struggle. And for probably a bigger proportion of the population, it's been somewhere in between, vacillating between growth and then sort of an absolute dead standstill, and wondering then, am I doing something wrong? Am I not looking at something in the right way? I don't know that there's necessarily any right or wrong answer in this. I mean, yes, it's been a time for Scorpios, particularly in this last 10 months, to shine. But for the other 11 signs, I think it's been a time where we've had time to take a little bit of a breather and reassess our goals and the things that are important to us. And for some people, being the most successful person on the planet and having the biggest bank balance all of a sudden hasn't become so important. Other things have become more important, like getting in touch with your own spirituality, understanding your own body and its needs better, and looking at feeding it and looking after it better and treating it like a temple. For other people, it's been sort of, delving into spiritual pursuits, whether they be orthodox or whether they be new age, and, delving into things that you poo-hooed in the past, but now all of a sudden you're very fascinated with and can understand the philosophies and the reasons behind why people have worked with these tools for many years. Whatever it's been for you, it's been a very personal journey. Be aware we've only got about another 6 weeks to go of this. So this is why I wanted to highlight it on today's show, that I wanted you to really sort of make sure that as we reach the finishing line of the Jupiter in Scorpio transit, that you really have worked with the energy, you haven't squandered it, that you've made sure that you've worked through everything and completed everything as much as possible. Now, this takes me on to the next segment of the show. Each week we feature a Simply Tarot. I was going to say Simply Tarot candle. We feature a candle out of my 27 in the range. And this week I'm happy to sort of share with you, we're going to be working with one that's called Angels and Guides. Now, it's interesting because most of us have a certain belief system on whether we have angels and guides in our lives. And look, there's so many schools of thought about this. And I want to say to you, there's no right or wrong way of looking at what's right or wrong. It's what you believe in, and what works for you is right for you. For me personally, I personally believe in the people that have passed over, that have gone before us, that were related to us by blood, usually end up being more likely to be our angel or our guide in the afterlife that are guiding us here on earth. That is my personal belief. I know many people believe that they were attached to Cleopatra and Mark Antony, and they've got Indian spirit guides, and they've got, guides from the Navajo reservation, and the list goes on. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. All I'm asking you to do is question. Why would somebody from the Navajo Indian reservation have some connection to you on an emotional and spiritual level that they want to take you in hand and help guide you in your life? That's my question. For me, I personally don't have any relatives that I'm aware of that come from the reservation. If I do, well, I don't mean to be rude to you, and I haven't acknowledged you, but I haven't had anybody leap forward yet and say to me, hey, we were connected, or we were related, or we did a past life together. And for many people that are Orthodox religion, as I like to call it, mainstream religion, they tend to believe that angels are something that people evolve into or happen, or some people believe that early loss of children or miscarriages and even abortions, that they turn into angels. They turn into angel state. I'm not saying that that's not correct. Again, I think it's one of those topics that you need to sit with, and you need to find your own truth and what works for you and what you feel most comfortable with. For me, I like to think of some of my angels and guides as being people that were really significant and special to me in my life. And two particular gentlemen spring to mind that I will share with you on a very personal note. My late husband has been gone now for well over 30 years. And one of my best friends, who was one of my mentors in my work in my early stages in my career, who many people around the world would know, Mark de Pascal. I had the good fortune of working with him many, many, many moons ago. And I believe those two little Pisces gentlemen up there quite often, I'm sure, get together for a glass of something cold and having a cigarette, which is not socially acceptable these days, but in those days it was a very acceptable pastime. And I often feel them around me, and I often see them, and I often have a conversation with them. And I know those two particular gentlemen would be very proud of what I've been able to achieve in my life since they've both been gone. But also I think they would sort of claim that they had a very big input into the things that I've been able to achieve, and particularly working with things like candles and working with tarot and designing tarot cards and things like that. I think they both claimed that they had more of an input in that. I just did as I was told. So, you know, that's my personal belief. I mean, I have plenty of other relatives up there that I'm sure poke their nose in from time to time and have their little bit of input into my life as well. But they're the two that I know that are constantly with me, that never let me down, that never leave my side. And I feel very honoured and very lucky to have that. But we all have other spirit guides and guardian angels on the other side that work with us as well. And they may be people that we don't know. But I always feel that there has to be some connection there. And the reasons why I'm saying a connection, because there has to be a reason for them to become emotionally invested in the time that it takes to make the connection with you. And if I can be a little bit self-indulgent again and give you another example, during the time that I was working with a publisher many moons ago now, and we were designing the Simply Tarot set, and in those days I kept on saying to my publisher, they sent me I don't know how many different types of tarot cards to look at, and each one of them said, oh, no, I don't like them. I don't like the symbology. The drawings are scary, et cetera, et cetera. And I kept coming back to I liked and worked with and had done for many, many years the Rider-Waite deck. And they kept saying to me, you know, well, that's impossible, we can't get a license to work with them. Rider won't release it, to take it worldwide. And then we came up with a concept of doing a modern deck. And they took that to the buyers, and the buyers absolutely hated it and said, well, that'll date really quickly. You can't have something that's going to be timeless. So then we combined the modern concept of photographic concept with the Rider-Waite cards and what I believed in and what I always liked to work with. Now, during that process of recreating the Rider-Waite deck, I truly believe that Arthur Edward Waite, who originally came up with the concept of the Rider-Waite deck, I believe he was with me and guiding our design team, as well as his artist, Pamela Colman Smith. Now, when I started to research Pamela Colman Smith, she actually died the year that I was born. And I sort of felt that there was some sort of connection there with that, you know, of all the people in the world to be chosen to sort of do something like this, I'd always stuck to my guns and my belief system that I believed that they were the best tarot cards on the planet, and that they were the easiest to teach people to read, and that they were something that had always resonated with me from a very young girl when I first was given my first set of tarot cards. And I do believe at that time that Arthur and Pamela worked alongside with me and pointed out things that I'd never actually seen on the tarot cards, and I was a bit embarrassed to admit that at the time. Been working with them for over 20 or 30 years and hadn't seen certain minute details on the cards, and it's not until you're starting to sort of reconstruct one do you see that there's, you know, 9 birds on a particular card and one shoe one colour and one another colour. So I believe that Pamela and Arthur actually stepped in at that time to have their work showcased and brought into the 21st century. So that's enough of my self-indulgence. So how would we work with an angels and guides candle if we wanted to bring our angels and guides closer to us? Normally we write down the things that we want to attract in our lives and we sort of send it out there with the intention and the purpose and the direction of the candle. With our angels and guides, we can still do the same thing. We can ask our angels and guides to step in and help us with a particular project or something that we're trying to fix in our lives. You may have had a disagreement or an argument with a family member and you want to sort of reconcile and bring the family unit back together. Well, then please call on your angels and guides. If you know their names, write their names down on a piece of paper and say, "Dear Archangel Michael," or "Dear Auntie Mary," or "Uncle Bob, can you please help me with X, Y, Z?" And that's how you work with this sort of information. If you haven't got anything in specific that you want to work with, and sometimes you just want to increase your own natural psychic ability and increase your own guidance, then that's certainly something perfectly fine that you can put down there on your piece of paper and say, "Look, I'm not sure who my angels and guides are, or maybe I have some new ones I feel recently have joined into the group. Can you please let me know who you are? But also I want to find ways of increasing my personal intuition and things like that in my life." And you will find that they will come through and they will start to help you with that. So we then would light the candle. We've got 2 weeks in these candles. I like to burn one side one day, one side the next day. Burning a candle from between 15 minutes to 2 hours. Please never, ever leave a candle unattended. The fires can happen very, very quickly. Children can come in and knock them flying, so can the dog and the cat. So please be careful. Make sure that you sit with your candle, babysit it, never put it under curtains, near open windows, under air conditioners, things like that. And leaving a candle unattended, even though you think it's safe, you just don't know when there's going to be an act of nature and a gust of wind comes through and blows a piece of paper on top of the candle, and the next thing you know, you have a fire. That's why I suggest please stay with them. For those of you that don't want to work with a candle, but you might want to work with the energy of the candle, can I suggest one of these electric welt warmers? You can pick them up at your variety store. Here in Australia, we pick them up at the supermarket for around about $15. They do have a little button on the side where you can sort of turn it on and off, which makes it easy to do. You take about half a teaspoon of your soy wax out of your candle per day and put that into your melt warmer, and you can leave that going all day in the office or at home, and it sort of puts the fragrance right through the house for you. Again, the same principle, write out whatever you want to bring or draw towards you, popping it underneath the melt warmer, always popping the melt warmer on a coaster, never directly on your furniture or on your table. That way we always protect everything that's going on in our lives. Now, for those of you that say to me, "Look, that's terrific, Amanda, but we need a smaller sort of package. Do you make anything smaller?" Yes, we do. We make our travel kit. These candles will burn for about 15 hours each. 3 in the box make up your travel kit. They're beautifully presented. It's perfect sort of arrangement to buy a travel kit and make it up with 3 different candles that you might want. Make perfect little gift-giving ideas for the holiday season ahead. We also sort of make the travel kit up for those that are looking for special candles to have on the Christmas table and on your Thanksgiving table, My Angel in the Sky, which is where you can bring in your loved ones and sort of celebrate them. So that's a little bit different to our angels and guides, I know, but you might want to make up a pack with 1 angels and guides and 2 My Angel in the Sky, so that, you've got the best of both worlds. So we're going to be moving on and taking our first call, and I'm going to need to put my glasses on so I can see, because Skype have decided to change the format on the screen that I can sort of read things, and now I won't be able to see anything. So please excuse me doing that. So howdy. Okay, we've got Bonnie in Halifax in Nova Scotia, Canada. Are you there, Bonnie?
Yes, I am.
How can I help you today, sweetie? Have you got a question I can answer for you? Hello, have you got a question I can answer for you, Bonnie?
Yes. I was just wondering, I've lost my husband a few years back, and just wondering if there would be a relationship anytime in the near future for me.
Okay, Bonnie, the first thing I'm going to say to you is I don't think until recently you were ready to sort of take the plunge of sort of looking for love again. It was sort of like you were still working through the processes of grieving and sort of adjusting to a new life without your husband, and that's very understandable. There's no sort of set time limit that all of a sudden you become ready to sort of date again, but I do feel that you are.
Right.
It's interesting because I'm seeing a choice between 2 men. I'm seeing the first one's got sort of dark hair, and if his hair was sort of a bit longer, I think there would be a wave or a curl to it. Look, a nice-looking sort of man, a rugged, handsome-looking man. Oh, look, there's nothing wrong with him. It's just that I don't feel the connection is right for you. Do you know what I mean? Lovely man, great friend, but there's no magic there. There's no chemistry. There's no, I wouldn't be sort of, getting wobbly-kneed thinking how wonderful and gorgeous he is and I, can't wait to get to know him better. But as a friend, as like a brother, he'd be terrific. And that's going to be disappointing for him because he's really quite besotted with you. But we can't force ourselves to be physically attracted to somebody in that way. If we're just not, we're not. That's all there is to it.
Right. Yes.
The second man is probably, look, I'm not going to say any more attractive, any more handsome than the first man. It's just that the magic's there. Do you know what I mean? Like you instantly click.
Right.
Like you feel like you've known him forever. He's got brown hair. His hair's quite straight. Very similar age to you, maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months older than you, but around the same age. Very fit, very agile man, look, sort of still jumping around the place like a 20-year-old. And that's good. Because I feel that you need to sort of get back into life again. Do you know what I mean? You don't want somebody that's just heading for the couch. You want to get out and explore life.
No. Yeah. I've been sitting around too long now.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You're ready to take that step forward. I'm not saying that he lost somebody through death, but I am saying it's been a couple of years since his relationship came to an end. And it hit him pretty hard. So he's sort of like you, was just sort of getting ready to venture back out the door again, to take the reins to life again and sort of the potential of having someone in your life on a full-time basis. So you're both at the same stage in that way, which is great. But he's just full of vim and vigour and makes you laugh and makes you feel about 16 again, and you think to yourself, gee, this is what I've been missing. I've been missing life. I've been missing feeling like I'm alive again. And that's really, really important. And it's sort of like they keep showing me no, but they're showing me it's somewhere between around the holiday season, somewhere around just after Thanksgiving or just before Thanksgiving, because I'm seeing sort of a turkey and I'm seeing the Christmas decorations and I'm seeing this man, these two gentlemen sitting in the midst of that. So whether you meet the first one that, could be just a really nice friend, say around Thanksgiving, and then the second one around the Christmas New Year period or something, but you haven't got long to wait. That's what I'm saying. So start getting some party frocks ready, I think, because you're going to have a busy end of year celebration.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, so that's good. You need to, I said, have some party frocks ready for the celebrations for the end of the year will be good, getting you back out into life.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you so much for taking my call.
You're very, very welcome. Now we're going to talk to Karen in Massachusetts. Are you there, Karen?
I'm here.
How can I help you this evening, Karen?
Well, I was just hoping for some sort of a reading on what you see coming up for me.
Okay, but do you have a specific question I can work with? Because that's the quickest way for me to tune in with such a limited space of time, sweetie.
I'm going in for surgery, and I guess I would like to know how that's going to be.
Okay. Number one, we're not technically by law, and both countries are supposed to talk about medical issues. What I can do is give it to you in this way. I don't see anything there that you need to be concerned about. I mean, yes, we all get anxious and concerned before we're, venturing into surgery, never knowing how it's really going to work out. But what they're showing me around that is that you come out of that sailing through it, and I think your recovery time will be less than what you anticipate. So that's good news. So if it didn't go super well, you wouldn't be feeling that way. Do you know what I mean? I don't say you're walking out of the hospital and going looking for a mountain to climb, but you're certainly recovering much faster than what they gave you as guidelines. So a lot of that, I think, Karen, will have to do with your mental attitude and your emotional attitude going into this. It's got to be done. You also know that, you cannot afford to put it off. If you put it off, then we could expect that there could be some more serious complications. So having said all that, you go into this surgery with the right attitude of knowing, well, this is, it's got to be done now. There's no point. Suck it up, princess. Let's get on with it, and be ready to come out the other side. And that's part of the reason why I think you come out of this and recover so much quicker, because you've accepted in your soul and in yourself that this is a necessity. It's a necessity. It has to be done. It's like getting up and brushing your teeth. I've got to do it every day, so I've got to go and have the surgery. So past that point, are we looking to make some fairly major, serious changes in your life?
Yes.
like the potential of a new job or a move of residence or something? I've got a lot of things with question marks sitting here at the moment, Karen.
Possibly a new job. I'm not loving what I'm doing right now, but I'm older, so that tends to be tougher to find something. I'm 60, so.
Yes, I can understand that, Karen. I can relate to that. But the thing is, I think that with having the surgery and coming out the other side and sort of feeling like you've made the recovery after surgery of somebody even more than half your age, you sort of think, well, okay, is this a sign that I might be 60 years of age on the piece of paper, but in my mind and my body and my spirit, I'm only 30. So maybe I can look at sort of projecting that energy into sort of, making the next 4 or 5 years of my life my real special time, where I can achieve what I need to achieve. I think people are working and living far longer than what they did. And I think a lot of that's got to do with we are looking after our bodies better, but also our mental and our emotional attitude is much better towards life too. We don't think of ourselves when we get to 60, oh, good, we're going to be put out into the paddock for retirement. We look at, well, there's another layer to our lives, another exciting chapter. And that's what I think will happen. I think there will be a new job. But I also sort of felt in this next 12 to 18 months, you would be considering making a change of residence as well, Karen.
Okay.
Okay. All right, darling, we have to wrap it up there. We've got less than 30 seconds of the show. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Next week we'll have the similar format. We'll have our final singer that we'll be looking at in the Zodiac and Pisces with a female. So until next week, don't forget, tune into your angels and guides and ask them for the guidance that you need to help you achieve what it is that you're looking for in your life. Bye for now.